Welcome to the Superfast Touchdesigner tutorial series. In this tutorial, we'll create a metallic glass texture with a glossy and reflective finish, adding a sense of depth and movement. Simply follow each step to reach the outcome you want, and feel free to experiment with the parameters as you progress. All right, let's begin. Part 1. Network. I always start by building the network before doing any type of parameterization. Let's begin the network for the first version of Pseudo liquids. If this is your first time on my channel, you should know that I've used this component in my previous tutorials. If you want to replicate it exactly, I've provided a link in the description on how you can create it yourself. But if you're in a hurry, you can also find it ready to use on my Patreon. Okay, let's continue with the network. Connect an edge followed by a mirror. Create a null to keep things organized. After the null, create a composite and connect the previously created mirror to the composite. Create another null followed by one more null. You'll understand why later. Now duplicate this setup 4 times and insert the following operators into each. Insert a normal, a blur, and finish by adding 2 levels at the end. Rename the final nulls in the network with the following names: bump, height, metallic, and ambient for ambient occlusion. Now create a PBR material and let's map these operators in the PBR material. Copy the following mappings. We'll use the metallic top for the base color and the metallic map. And finally, map the ambient to the ambient occlusion. This completes the first part of the network. Let's move on to the next part, where we'll create an environment to render geometries or 3D surfaces in Touchdesigner. Great. First, create a grid SOP and connect an attribute create SOP. Then finish with a material SOP. Connect a geo and create the following sequence of tops. Add a render top, followed by a displace. As usual, connect the last output of the last operator to both inputs of the displace. Create an RGB key and separate from the network. Create a constant, followed by a composite. Connect the RGB key to the composite and end the network by adding an out. So far, so good. Now, let's create the necessary operators for rendering. Create an environment light, an additional light, which can be a point light, and a camera. Finally, add a movie file in because we're going to load an HDRI into the scene. Drag the movie file in onto the environment map and select the environment map option. Now load an HDRI, which you can get for free from HDRI Haven. I'll leave the link in the description. I recommend using HDRIs with a maximum resolution of 2K to avoid drop frames. Part 2, parameters. Perfect. Let's start with the mappings and parameter settings. Select the render top and choose the resolution you will be working with. In my case, I prefer working vertically, so I'll use 1080x1920. And now copy the following parameters into each of the operators. Select Pseudo liquids and copy the following values into each of the tabs. Go to the first composite and choose the blend mode, negate. Now copy each of the following values in the network, where we are creating the texture to be used in our 3D object. Select blur and copy these parameters. Copy these values in the first level and change the pixel format to 32-bit mono. Do the same with the second level, but also modify some parameters. Next, this is important, so don't miss a single detail. Select the PBR material and copy these parameters. Go to the Maps option, copy these parameters, and enable the following settings. Now drag the PBR material directly to the material SOP. Now let's continue setting parameters in the SOP section. Select the grid and copy these parameters. Go to the Attribute Create SOP and enable both options. We have our initial results. Now we need to tweak just a few things. Go to the last Displace and use these parameters. In the Composite, we'll stay with Multiply. Perfect. Insert a level top here and copy these values. Return to the Pseudo liquid parameter and adjust the blur values. I need more black level. Go to the last level and tweak the levels a little bit. Part 3. Camera and Lights. Select the camera and click on the plus icon to manipulate its position with the mouse. I prefer to zoom out of the scene completely to get a panoramic view, which helps me decide how to position the camera better. To manipulate the camera with the mouse, use the left and right buttons and the scroll wheel. Similar to any 3D program, select your light operator, adjust the lighting to your liking. For me, it's important to find the points where the lighting generates the most details and adds a new sensation to the composition. Feel free to play with the lighting. I aim to find an angle that accentuates the 3D effect by casting some shadows, for example. Additionally, I usually set the intensity to a high value to see what is happening and then fine-tune it subtly until I achieve the best result. I'm going to clone this light and position it in a different spot. I think it would be interesting to give it a different tone from another angle to highlight certain details of the texture. It's always interesting to test and explore various possibilities before settling on one. Part 4. Play and Explore. You can start with the Pseudo liquids operator and manipulate all its parameters. For example, using the blur can give a more pixelated effect, which could be very interesting. In all the noise options, you can significantly alter the composition, especially if you adjust the amplitude and the offset. If you want something more advanced, I invite you to explore the second, more advanced version of Pseudo Liquids. It comes with 7 default presets and allows you to create, rename, and save your own presets. You can find this more advanced version on my Patreon. Connect the output of Pseudo Liquids version 2 to the 2 initial inputs of your network. Now you have various types of presets that generate different results. Some work better than others, depending on your preferences. Personally, I'm still obsessed with glassy, liquid, and transparent textures. I'm going to choose the pink thermal preset and increase the bump significantly to get a texture with more details. I can also start playing with the camera and exploring different angles. Great! I hope you have achieved the results from the tutorial. See you in the next one.